We got word earlier this afternoon that President Obama intends to issue an oral decree followed by a written decree, as any good monarch would, indicating that he's decided to change the law regarding immigration. Article here from the Washington Post has a quote from Secretary Jay Johnson, the Secretary of Homeland Security, which he says, quote, "Legislative action is always preferable," unquote, Johnson said, but, quote, "We have waited for Congress to act and the Congress has not acted. The President has waited," unquote. And that's what leaders in places like Venezuela, well, there have been many places historically where that statement's been made. We waited for Parliament or the legislature or Congress to change the law. They didn't do as we dictated to Congress they had to do, and therefore we've decided to change the law. This president is creating a constitutional crisis, and it happens when a president is allowed to continue pushing the envelope and pushing the envelope and exceeding the envelope, and you have an incorrigible opinion written, as the majority for the Supreme Court did on Obamacare, that is the height of hypocrisy. How the Supreme Court majority could say on page 14 and 15 that the mandated penalty in Obamacare was not a tax. The Supreme Court said if it were a tax, of course, under the anti-injunction statute, many decades old, we would not have jurisdiction, plaintiffs wouldn't have standing. But since clearly the penalty is just that, it's a penalty, then it's not a tax, because if it were a tax, we wouldn't have jurisdiction, plaintiffs wouldn't have standing, and we'd all be out of luck and we wouldn't be able to issue an opinion. But since it's not a tax, it's a penalty, then we'll go forward and be able to issue an opinion. And then you get over about 40 pages, and the opinion says, since it is a tax after all, even though 40 pages or so ago it wasn't, now we found that it is, therefore it's constitutional. So we have had all three branches help create a constitutional, just a real constitutional crisis. The president, on one hand, by continuing to overstep the boundaries of the Constitution as he usurps more and more power. The Supreme Court, by issuing decisions that are nonsensical, and Congress, if we don't and we continue not to use the powers of the purse to stop the lawlessness by this administration. Supreme Court's had opportunities to stop it. They have stopped it on many occasions, set a record for numbers of Supreme Court opinions ruling against an administration unanimously. So the president does have that part of his legacy going. But apparently the legacy continues to be stretched to the bounds of absurdity. Washington Post says, this was from today, President Obama will announce Thursday that he will use his executive authority to expand temporary protections to millions of undocumented immigrants, according to several individuals who have been briefed on the decision. Obama will travel to Las Vegas on the heels of that announcement to rally support for his initiative on Friday. Shouldn't be a surprise. while the president slept and 4 heroes, including one ambassador in Benghazi, were killed, he got up and headed for Las Vegas. Now he's going to announce this constitutional crisis he's creating by deciding to legislate and then take off for Las Vegas again, gambling with the jobs of Americans as he goes. This article, getting back to the article again, it says Congress will receive official details on the move Thursday, according to a senior Democratic Party official. Even before final confirmation of the president's plans, outside advocates began readying events to promote the administration's immigration policy. Quote, "We hear there will be a primetime Thursday evening announcement to preview and full unveiling in Vegas on Friday," unquote. Immigration advocate Don Lee wrote in an email to other activists, which was later inadvertently sent to a group of reporters Wednesday morning. Quote, "Can folks begin to work and plan watch parties for Thursday and or Friday? Unclear whether Thursday night content will be what is celebratory, but Friday will be where we need a lot of energy guaranteed," unquote. And that's, of course, while the president's in Las Vegas gambling away American jobs. Article goes on, Obama launched his push for immigration reform in January 2013 in Las Vegas, outlining a plan that would allow many of the nation's 11 million undocumented immigrants to earn citizenship. Now, it is important to note, the article goes on to say, Johnson said the administration has concluded it has wide latitude to take action. Quote, "It can't be that we're not allowed to lift a finger to fix our broken immigration system," unquote. Quote, "And we will," unquote. Well, see, that's what creates the constitutional crisis, Mr. Speaker. Jefferson once recommended that we shouldn't bring up a bill for a vote till it's had a year on file for people to review. That would eliminate all these legislating by crises situations. But we've seen crises generated. We know the former chief of staff for the President of the United States once quipped that you never want to let a good emergency go to waste. Obviously, there's a feeling that this would be the time to usurp congressional authority. Now, the sad thing is the crisis is not as bad right now as it has been in the past. Anytime the president talked about amnesty or legal status, Border Patrolmen have said, and some on the record, some in articles, but they pointed out anytime the president or anybody in Washington, but especially the president, talks about amnesty or legal status, the numbers of people coming in illegally, the number of people dying trying to get in increases, the numbers of people wishing to get lost in the masses from Central America and Mexico coming in from countries where radical Islamist activities abound, they're coming in greater numbers. So, interestingly, the White House has shown it has the ability to foment a crisis unilaterally, and then by fomenting the crisis unilaterally, justify the crisis they created to usurp congressional authority granted to Congress and no one else in the Constitution. Here's an article from my dear friend, Senator Ted Cruz, Constitution designs a system of checks and balances for our nation. An executive amnesty for illegal immigrants unilaterally decreed by the White House would seriously undermine the rule of law. Our founders repeatedly warned about the dangers of unlimited power within the executive branch. Congress should heed those words as the president threatens to grant amnesty to millions of people who have come to our country illegally. To be clear, the dispute over executive amnesty is not between President Obama and Republicans in Congress. It is a dispute between President Obama and the American people. The Democrats suffered historic losses in the midterm elections, largely over the prospect of the president's executive amnesty. President Obama was correct. His policies were on the ballot across the nation in 2014. The elections were a referendum on amnesty, and the voters soundly rejected it. There was no ambiguity. Undeterred, President Obama appears to be going forward. It is lawless. It is unconstitutional. It is defiant and angry at the American people. If he acts by executive dictate, President Obama will not be acting as a president. He will be acting as a monarch. Thankfully, the framers of our Constitution, wary of the dangers of monarchy, gave the Congress tools to rein in abuses of power. They believed if the president wants to change the law, he cannot act alone. He must work with Congress. He may not get everything he wants, but the Constitution requires compromise between the branches. A monarch, however, does not compromise. As Alexander Hamilton explains in Federalist 69, a monarch decrees, dictates, and rules through fiat power, which, as Ted Cruz points out, is what President Obama is attempting. When the president embraces the tactic of a monarch, it becomes incumbent on Congress to wield the constitutional power it has to stop it. And he goes on to make good points, but it is important that someone speak for the tens of millions of American citizens who had a dream, who hoped to have work, who hoped to provide for their families, who hoped to have enough to pay back student loans, who hoped to buy their children bicycles for Christmas, but they're out of work. They lost work. Oh, I know the books have gotten cooked, and we're told that the unemployment rate is dramatically better, but the reason, a big reason, that the American voters did not indicate that at the polls is they don't feel it. And the reason they don't feel that the employment numbers are better is because they personally know they are not. They're not better. And in fact, this article is from September 5th, from CNS News. A record 92,269,000 Americans 16 and older did not participate in the labor force in August, as the labor force participation rate matched a 36-year low of 62.8%, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. The labor force participation rate has been as low as 62.8% in 6 of the last 12 months. But prior to last October, had not fallen that low since 1978, which hypothetically or parenthetically was during the August, I say sarcastically for those on the left that don't know sarcasm, those August days of the American economy during President Carter's glorious years as president. This article goes on, BLS employment statistics are based on the civilian non-institutional population, which consists of all people 16 or older who were not in the military or an institution such as a prison, mental hospital, or nursing home. In August, the civilian non-institutional population was 248,229,000, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Of that 248 million, 155,959,000, or 62.8%, participate in the labor force, meaning they either had a job or had actively sought one in the past 4 weeks. The 92,269,000 who did not participate in the labor force are those in the civilian non-institutional population who did not have a job and did not actively seek one in the last 4 weeks. Because they did not seek a job, then the administration did not count them as unemployed. Mr. Speaker, as the President intends to announce tomorrow and party in Las Vegas, going into more detail about how many Americans are going to be displaced from their jobs by people the President is going to provide amnesty to, somebody needs to be speaking up for that union member that would love to pay union dues if he just had a job, or for the single moms that have approached me in tears saying they got forced into part-time work because of Obamacare and the change in the law that was entailed in the Obamacare bill. There are people hurting across America that are American citizens that once had a dream. Maybe we should label the President's unconstitutional actions as the American citizen dream killer instead of any type of Dreamer Act. We've seen statistics that indicate that possibly less than 10% of people who have come into this country illegally are actually working. So the President provides amnesty for millions of people who are illegally here. I hope that he will also provide an apology to the Hispanics, people that from different places around the world that my office is trying to help achieve visas, achieve citizenship legally, some taking years. And I'm sure the President is not going to feel like apologizing. Is apparently the indication he wants to celebrate the unconstitutional actions he's going to announce in Las Vegas. But somebody with the government needs to apologize to the American people that 92 million plus Americans are not even looking for a job anymore when they're eligible for jobs. They could have jobs. Most of them would like to have jobs, but they've given up. They've lost their dreams under this administration. And as the President announces making millions and more people who have come illegally eligible to take American citizens' jobs in the next 2 days, I hope that our Congress, on both sides of the aisle, will do what's right and say, wait a minute, secure the border, Mr. President. That is what is exclusively within your control. The Supreme Court has said States, local authorities, they can't secure the border. It is up to the administration. And the mere fact that this administration has turned their back on protecting Americans from the illegal aliens that have come in and killed Americans, raped Americans. Thank God most of them don't do those things. But for the people who have been the victims of crimes by people who have come in illegally, those crimes would never have occurred if we had had an administration that secured the border so people who came across with criminal records in their past in the countries they came from would not be allowed in here. And those crimes they commit in America would not have been committed. And those that have been deported and come back in after they committed crimes here and commit more crimes, as I personally saw as a judge happen in Smith County, Texas, those wouldn't be happening if we had an administration that would properly secure the border. Clinton administration didn't do it. The Bush administration didn't do it. And now this administration has set records for how poorly they have prevented people from coming in illegally, the damage that's been done to American citizens, crushing dreams, taking dreams. I hope and pray the President will remember his oath, that this precursor that was released today about the damage the President wants to do to American citizens who are trying to find jobs, that he'll have second thoughts and not do it. Mr. Speaker, I hope the American people who spoke very loudly and clearly when they came out to vote will let the President know in person, through email, through phone calls, that American citizens still need jobs. Why don't you help the economy get going stronger so that we need more people to come in and have those jobs? Our oath is to the American people. And when you have nearly a third of the United States, or getting close to half of people eligible to work, that have even completely given up on looking for jobs, the economy is not good. Americans are suffering. And now the President wants to bring in, just provide amnesty to people who will then be able to compete and put American citizens out of work. It really is heartbreaking. Now, if you stay aboard, say, an Air Force One, and you only go to rallies or golf courses where everybody's doing great, wealthy, you only talk to high-tech industry people that are just knocking down billions of dollars, it's easy to start feeling like things are going great. But if you go to Sabine County, Texas, San Augustine, Texas, Shelby County, Texas, Angelina County, Nacogdoches County, Rusk County, Panola County, Harrison County, Gregg County, Smith County, Wood County, Upshur County, those are counties all within my district. And in some of those counties, people are really getting desperate. They don't need to compete with 5 million more people for jobs. They just like a job themselves. If the Obama administration will take the foot off of the throat of this economy, will help us roll back and repeal Obamacare. Got notice again of another hospital in my district this week. There in Gohmert, where my nephew was born. Gohmert Hospital, where my nephew was born, is now going to be closed. they're not going to be able to have. They're not going to be able to handle the continued cuts that Obamacare has created. There are numerous reasons, but that is a death knell. Hospitals are closing. People are. So for the between 92 and 93 million people that have given up hope, how sad, because the Obama administration will not secure our borders. I want immigrants coming in. I love the fact that we allow more legal immigrants in than anybody. I love that. That is wonderful. But when you don't have secure borders and millions come in, millions upon millions, then you're moving toward a day when nobody's going to want to come in because you didn't have a logical immigration process. They overwhelmed the system. They broke the system. And now that shining light on a hill has gone out. We're moving in that direction. Military becoming too small to adequately protect us. People around the world in hostile environments deciding that America can be pushed around. Radical Islamists deciding this is the time to move. Iran figuring out that they have an administration that can be duped over and over again until they have the atomic weapons and the ability to carry them, which they already got. They can do it with ships, enough to take out the great Satan, which is the United States, according to them, and the little Satan, Israel. And this president is going to have a good time out in Las Vegas. You know, Las Vegas can be fun, but not when the president says he's going to sign a law. Wouldn't it be ironic if he decided to sign it at Caesar's palace? Because the real Caesar's palace used to see that kind of thing on a regular basis. You know, a dictator or Caesar just signing a law as he saw fit. But in this case, you would think a Caesar would not sign a law that would provide the ability to displace millions of Americans who have jobs and force them into the eventuality where 92 million Americans are. They've given up hope. They've given up on their dreams. If you believe the Bible as I do, it makes clear, you know, that the government is here to protect people, to protect against evil, to encourage good conduct. That means following the law. You provide a protected environment in which people can be peacemakers and be meek and loving and kind and turn the other cheek. But that is not for the government. The government's role is to enforce the law as it is. And may God plant the seeds of wisdom in the right people in this administration so they'll quit harming Americans who just want a job. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield back.
Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
At this time, I would move that we do now hereby adjourn.
The question is on the motion to adjourn. Those in favor say aye.